Welcome back. Today, we are going to be applying our understanding of the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction to the ideological debate of egalitarianism, anti-egalitarianism, radical egalitarianism, and radical anti-egalitarianism. Let's start with a Thomas Sowell quote. "Even the same man is not equal to himself on different days." This is a very good quote because it's accurate. With it, we can illustrate that any distinction between things necessitates that the things are not equal, at least with regards to the distinctive factors. Something cannot both be the same and different in the same sense. Sowell's quote was likely referring to a man's capacities from one day to the next. However, you can take the quote further down to metaphysical distinctions. Remember our discussion on time. It always is that it was. So me at one point in time is not the equal to me at any other point for the simple reason that the locations within time are a distinction. However, sometimes the anti-egalitarian will take this bit of knowledge and stretch it beyond what the case actually is. To say that distinctions necessarily make things not equal is fine, but to say that nothing is equal is a violation of the law of identity. If a person takes this position against equality, I would categorize them as a radical anti-egalitarian. The radical anti-egalitarian is oftentimes guilty of ignoring meaning. The meaning they are so guilty of ignoring is based around the understanding that a thing is not any of its aspects, but is instead the summation of its aspects. When an egalitarian says, all men are created equal, very rarely do they mean equal in the absolute sense of A equals A. Those that do mean this are crazy for obvious reasons. No, more typically what is meant is that A equals A asterisk. The asterisk is representative of aspects of which are relevant to the point being made. That we are all equal in our existence is one example of this. I do not exist to any greater degree than you do. When a person wants to have something painted and decides that they want to hire the same person who painted for them last time, they aren't saying they want the exact same person in the sense that they want all of the exact same metaphysical aspects found within the category of the person they hired before. And no one would assume that's what they meant. It would be implicitly understood that they were excluding all aspects that were irrelevant to their goal, / impossible to have. Everyone, barring the insane, understands what is actually meant. This is the truth behind egalitarianism. However, you run into problems when this knowledge is also stretched beyond what the case actually is. When you have policies based around things being equal, which are most evidently not, such as the productivity of workers within a company. Making policies whose success is dependent upon something that isn't the case has no choice but to lead to failure. When you point out to an egalitarian that things are different by nature, you may not be surprised to hear naturalistic fallacy scream down your throat. And while it's true that because something naturally is a certain way, that doesn't mean that is the way that it ought to be, the way that things ought to be is still inextricably linked to the way that things are. After all, however they ought be, it is the case that they ought to be such. Is it not? Furthermore, when making a claim that things necessarily ought not be a specific way, the burden of proof will be on the person making the claim, in this case, the egalitarian. No, the egalitarian is only justified in making arguments about what ought to be the case when their ought is derived from reality. Their policies should ensure that people are not treated in a way that they ought not be, because of those aspects in which people are actually equal to one another. Example would be, a debt to me is just as valid as a debt to you. Our rights, which arise from the same aspects of nature, are the same, and ought to be treated as such. In summation, those parts of ideologies discussed today, which are adherent to the way that things actually are, helps us to understand when distinction is relevant and when it isn't. And those parts which are ignorant of the way that things are can lead to catastrophe, moral and otherwise. Today, I've touched on several concepts I've made previous videos on. I'm going to give you a link to one of them. It'll be my video on the laws of thought. Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Could I present this information more clearly? If you think so, please leave a comment or response video. I want this channel to be a forum of knowledge, and discussion really helps that along. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the little bell. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm signing off. See you next time.